An anthology on the bad, the short-lived, and the forgotten shows and events in television history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
On this week's Super Train Mystery, Hail to the Chief. Two dwarfs and a magician replace a presidential candidate with a double so real, even his wife can't tell.
Episode 526. Submission number 562. C.P.O. Sharkey. C.P.O. Sharkey aired on NBC from December 1st of 1976 to April 28th of 1978 for a mind-blowing 37 episodes. Gentlemen, first and foremost, this is the first episode of 2025. Happy New Year to you. Number one this year is a show, a comedy, about military life. We've seen shows like this in the past. Phil Silver's show, McHale's Navy, MASH. I mean, we can't really forget MASH. That's only like one of the biggest series of all time. But NBC in late 76, debuted this show. It's about a U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer. That's what the C.P.O. means in case you don't get the lingo. This Chief Petty Officer, Otto Sharkey, he was a career Navy man, and he was in charge of a bunch of seaman recruits. Damn it! Can't we start the year being clean, Greg? S-E-A-M-A-N. You know, sailing the high seas. I'm not even going to acknowledge what you were thinking, sicko. So anyhow, C.P.O. Sharkey, as you might expect, and you'll get why I say this, was very abrasive, very insulting, very sarcastic. You'll understand why when we get to who played who in this series. Because they got the king of the insults and sarcasm to play C.P.O. Sharkey. This company that he's in charge of, Company 144, is a very diverse group of men. You had a Southerner, you had an African American, you had somebody of Polish origin, somebody of Jewish origin, Italian, Puerto Rican, Japanese. So this is really like a very diverse group of individuals. And this series just follows the goofiness that happens on this naval base. With that very basic premise as to this show, I think jumping right into who is in this show will fill in a lot of the holes. First and foremost, C.P.O. Sharkey himself, played by, again, the king of the insults, the king of sarcasm, Don Rickles. Don Rickles, I don't think of him too much in TV shows. He was more of a Vegas stand-up type of person. I think he did a number of the Dean Martin roasts. So television, I don't want to say it wasn't his thing. We have talked about Don Rickles in the past because he hosted Foul Ups, Bleeps, and Blunders back about 40 years ago, 84, 85. And that was simply ABC's sort of takeoff of NBC's TV's bloopers and practical jokes. But I think the current generation, talking the last 30 years, really would know Don Rickles as the voice of Mr. Potato Head in the Toy Story series. In terms of TV work, again, wasn't on many shows, but he was a frequent guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He was one of Johnny's favorites. And actually, during the taping of C.P.O. Sharkey, Don Rickles substitute hosted for Johnny Carson, and Johnny had a cigar box on his desk, and Don Rickles accidentally broke it one night when he was substitute hosting Tonight Show. And there's a story about after Carson found out, well, C.P.O. Sharkey taped on the same lot as the Tonight Show, the old NBC lot. Carson came over and let's say he gave Rickles the business in a very playful way. They didn't get into a fight or anything in terms of somebody getting injured, but Rickles admitted it was a mistake. It was an accident. Accidents happen, and they let bygones be bygones. It wasn't something where Carson let this hang over Rickles' head until his dying day or anything like that. That may be the big event from any time that Rickles substitute hosted the Tonight Show. But he did episodes of many different shows over the course of like 50 years. I'm not going to get into all of them because we could be here forever. He did a number of late night talk shows, like I said, not just Carson. He did Letterman. He did Mr. Black. He did Craig Ferguson, Kimmel. So he was one of those guys that if you stay up late enough, you'll see him do his thing. Next, playing Seaman Lester Pruitt, who is the Southerner I mentioned, very tall. And I don't want to say he was a little bit on the slow side, but yeah, he was sort of like the Patrick Starr of this show. With all due respect to Patrick Starr. Not the brightest bulb in the chandelier of life. Peter Isaacson. The only thing I remember him from is he did a number of weeks of Match Game talking about 77, maybe 78. I don't think he did many weeks after the show became syndicated, after the daytime show got canceled. Playing C.P.O. Dave Robinson, who is probably Sharkey's closest friend, is Harrison Page. And guys, I'm just declaring this right now. Harrison Page is going to be in the Hall of Fame in a couple of months. Because we've talked about Harrison Page on Supertrain. Now we're talking about him on C.P.O. Sharkey. And we're going to talk about him in March because he was on Sledgehammer. Really an underrated performer, in my opinion. I've been watching the Sledgehammer episodes, and he's good. Let's just say that. He may get an unfair break because he was on Supertrain, and he was also on this. But Harrison Page, I think he's going to find a way to the Hall of Fame. Playing one of the recruits, Recruit Daniels, is Jeff Hollis. And as is the case with IMDb, his known for lists C.P.O. Sharkey, and really, he only did 3 other things. He was on a 1977 episode of Good Times, and he was on something called Youngblood in 78 and The Big Easy in 1986. So not a very diverse career for Mr. Hollis, who passed away about 25 years ago, January 12th of 2000, at the age of 49. Playing another recruit, I would presume based on the name, this is the person of Polish descent, call it a hunch. Recruit Kowalski is Tom Rubin. Again, Tom Rubin, known for C.P.O. Sharkey on IMDb. He was on an episode of Matlock in 1990, an episode of MASH in 1976, an episode of Policewoman in 74, Rockford Files in 74, Happy Days in 74. He was really busy in 74, but that's about the extent of his career. Additionally, Tom Rubin is the son of C.P.O. Sharkey creator Aaron Rubin. Playing Recruit Skolnick, who is the recruit of Jewish descent, is David Landsberg. David Landsberg, not with us any longer. He passed away in 2018. He was more of a writer than anything else. He wrote on an episode of Star Trek TNG. In terms of other shows that he would have appeared in, he did an episode of the John Larroquette Show. He did voices on Saturday Supercade. Doesn't say what voices, but he did voices on Saturday Supercade. And he was on a couple episodes of Heart to Heart, an episode of Eight is Enough, an episode of Hello Larry. He did the voice of Woody, I don't know who this was, on Yogi Space Race. So another person, yeah, he had a bit of a career, but nothing overwhelming. Another recruit, and this would be the recruit of Puerto Rican descent, Recruit Rodriguez, played by Richard Beauchamp. He hasn't been with us for over 30 years. He passed away in 1994. Other than C.P.O. Sharkey, the only thing I see on his IMDb of note is he played Carlos on 13 episodes of Hunter between 1985 and 1987. So very early on in the Hunter run. We're going to go through a few more and then we're going to get to the episodes. There's a big cast here. I'll be the first to admit it, but I'm not going to go through everybody who is on at least like 5 episodes because that's just entirely too long. So next up is Lieutenant Whipple. And Lieutenant Whipple is played by Jonathan Daly, not John Daly, the golfer, not John Charles Daly, the host of What's My Line. Jonathan Daly. He was on the Jimmy Stewart Show for 24 episodes in 1971 and 1972. He also played Orrin Pike in 11 episodes of Petticoat Junction. And unfortunately, he has not done anything on IMDb, at least, since appearing on 1 episode of Law and Order Trial by Jury. Playing Apodaca is Philip Sims, not Phil Sims the football player. Nice try. Another person who really was not known for much of anything in terms of any other series. He was on an episode of Crazy Like a Fox, Hill Street Blues, Moonlighting, Cagney and Lacey, Barney Miller. He was in the Gong Show movie. We don't talk about the Gong Show movie much around here. He was in it. He was Vito. I may have to pull up the Blu-ray and see what he did, if I can stomach that movie. It's not good.
Duh, of course it isn't.
I'll just spend money on any old crap. He was also on 1 episode of Black Sheep Squadron. The last person we're going to talk about is Captain Buckner, who's basically in charge of the naval base, played by Richard X. Slattery. Richard X. Slattery, again, he's not known for much outside of this show. Just take a look. He was on 9 episodes of Bewitched. He was on 4 episodes of OG Love American Style. And he was on 30 episodes of a show from 1965 called Mr. Roberts. And he was on 26 episodes of a series called The Gallant Men, which ran from 1962 to 1963. But other than that, I don't want to say he was that guy from that thing, but he really was. He was on an episode of Mod Squad, The Partridge Family, 2 episodes of Route 222, 2 episodes of Bonanza, 2 episodes of The Paul Lynde Show, former entry there, an episode of Cannon, 1974, so that's like season 3. And he was even on an episode of, and I want to cover this for some reason. I've got reasons. But he was on an episode of Burt D'Angelo Superstar.
What is that?
It's
a Quinn Martin production.
Beyond being a Quinn Martin production, this lead, Burt D'Angelo, was played by Paul Sorvino. But I was going through it a couple of weeks ago, and there was some guest star that just like blew my mind. Oh, yes, I'm looking at the IMDb now. First, Chris Pine's daddy was on 8 of the 11 episodes. But also on 3 episodes, not even joking, Ed Vasgersian.
Any relation to Matt Vasgersian?
His father.
Ah.
That's the reason I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about Ed Vasgersian, Matt Vasgersian's father, which gives me a reason to play the What's a Heifer clip.
What is a heifer?
That's all that episode's going to be. What's a heifer? What's a heifer? I mean, beyond that, I did really want to talk about it maybe at some point because it is a Quinn Martin production. That's everybody who is in at least half the episodes. So we're going to just dive in to season 1, and we're going to start with episode 1, which is titled, Oh Captain, My Captain. Do they stand up on desks and salute Robin Williams in this episode? Robin Williams wasn't that big, so I don't think so. Sharkey reconsiders re-enlisting when his new commanding officer turns out to be a woman.
What?
I mean, that is kind of a big issue in 1976. Yeah, maybe nowadays we wouldn't even bat an eye. But playing that new commanding officer, somebody who's actually in, I think, like 15 episodes, 11 episodes. She's in low double digits, is Elizabeth Allen. She plays Captain Quinlan. Elizabeth Allen has been with us for close to 20 years, since 2006. She was one of those people who did a little bit of everything. She was on 281 episodes of Texas from 1980 to 1982. And that's really the big place you would have seen her, was that. And also she played Martha Sims on the Paul Lynde Show. So another Paul Lynde Show reference. And she played Laura Dean on Bracken's World back in the late 60s, early 70s. So maybe a somewhat known entity there.
I'll tell you what known entity is on this episode, playing a captain, James T. Callahan, Walter Powell from Charles in Charge.
Episode 2 is titled Shimakawa Ships Out. Sharkey is accused of discrimination by a Japanese recruit. We haven't talked about Mr. Shimakawa yet, who's played by John Fujioka.
That would actually be Shimokawa's daddy. But the actual recruit Shimokawa, played by Evan C. Kim, you might remember him from the Deadpool, or I know I remember him from the Fistful of Yen feature as part of the Kentucky Fried Movie.
A Kentucky Fried Movie reference. That's great.
Good watch. Better than the Gong Show movie.
Stabbing yourself in the eye is better than the Gong Show movie. Jeez. Set the bar somewhat high. Episode 3 is titled The Dear John Letter. Sharkey tries to help a recruit write a breakup letter, but is called away before finishing the task. Robinson sees the unfinished note and assumes that his buddy Sharkey is suffering heartbreak. Oh. Playing Evelyn Thadburn in this episode is Rhonda Bates. She was in 7 episodes of Blansky's Beauties as Arkansas. I'd like to see her Little Rock. But also, she played Evelyn Thadburn in 6 episodes of C.P.O. Sharkey. And really, that's about the extent of her career. She was in 4 episodes of something called Roller Girls. I think we've talked about that at some point. Sort of made the rounds in the 80s and even up to 1993 when she appeared in 2 episodes of Evening Shade. Episode 4 in season 1 is titled Goodbye, Dolly. The trainees have some free time and an inflatable woman appears as a gag. Oh, no. I don't want to know where this is going. But they can't let the air out and must hide it in the barracks from Sharkey. But he's suspicious of their behavior and stays vigilant. Oh, my gosh. You can't have those women at the barracks, whether they're inflatable or human. Oh, my. Episode 5, just getting by this really fast, is called Skolnick in Love. The shy Skolnick begins a whirlwind romance with a cocktail waitress, raising questions from those around him. That will take us to episode 6 in season 1, titled McNone's Mutiny. When Sharkey learns one of his recruits is using a hairdryer, he confiscates it. But he learns that the men are upset and want the hairdryer returned. Episode 7 in season 1 is titled Kowalski, the Somnambulist. Kowalski's sleepwalking leaves him facing a discharge, but Sharkey may be the one to blame. Playing a psychiatrist in this episode. Guessing this is the guy who's going to try and cure Kowalski's somnambulism, sleepwalking for those who don't have their master's degree, sorry, is Dick Van Patten. So literally this is probably months before 8 is Enough. Because I think it started in 77 to 81, and this episode was from early 77. So, that rates. I wonder if Vince Van Patten was playing poker with everybody behind the scenes. He was practicing for his World Poker Tour stint. I can only imagine how Don Rickles would react if he got beat by like a 17-year-old Vince Van Patten at poker. Oh, hilarity ensues when he starts calling Vince Van Patten everything under the sun. Episode 8 is titled Sunday in Tijuana. A trip to the Tijuana bullfights sees the recruits being thrown in jail, as well as the officers coming to retrieve them.
This show takes place in San Diego, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It does, yes. Because I think the big naval base is down there. Or naval bases, yes.
Miramar, yeah.
Well, it's a good thing it's not San Diego, not Alameda, because as we all know, that's where they keep the nuclear vessels. See, Chico got it, and he just walked off. That's a reference to Star Trek 4, by the way.
While you two celebrate that little achievement, I'm going on to episode 9, which is titled Rodriguez and His Mamacita. The recruits try to hide Rodriguez's girlfriend as she unexpectedly shows up amid a crackdown on hookers sneaking onto the base. What?
Hello.
Yeah!
Oh my god, this show has everything it seems. Now we got hookers.
Well, I will say this. Having seen a couple of episodes, and since we already talked about the inflatable woman, there are a number of episodes where women are on the base and hilarity ensues. We'll get to one in season 2 that actually just aired in the last week or two, but it had the same basic format. Woman on the base, holy crap, sirens go off, nobody can see this woman. Moving on to episode 10, which is titled Sharkey Boogies on Down. It's Sharky's birthday and is disappointed that he only gets gag gifts. You're Don friggin' Rickles, of course you're going to get gag gifts. Really. Sharky is persuaded to head to the local disco to cheer up and finds himself popular on the dance floor. I did not know that Don Rickles could cut a rug.
Oh,
What? Greg, what?
oh, I see what you did because he's bald.
I didn't do a thing. Why? I just listened to the end of the My Mother the Car episode, and Chico made an assumption about something that I said, and that was terribly wrong. And you just repeated that. I did not say that. Oh my gosh. No, they call dancing cutting a rug. That was not a bald joke.
Right.
Well, remember, I got to keep my eyes open because anytime you see the number that is equal to 23 times 3, I've got to watch my step.
What's that number?
That number is, episode 11 is Sharky finds peace and quiet. After continual interruptions, Sharky gets an apartment off base. Sorry, I ruined your hopes and dreams there. Episode 12 is titled Sharky the Marriage Counselor. Recruit Plunkett has been in a foul mood since his marriage ended, and it's affecting morale. Sharky decides the antidote is to arrange double dates for himself and Plunkett, which leads to troubles. A lot of female problems on this show. Hey, we do have a name playing Cousin Mildred in this episode. Deb Harmon from Just the 10 of Us.
Oh.
The Lubbock Mother. The mother of the kids. Lubbock Mother sounds like it could be some sort of vulgarity. Episode 13 is titled Sharky's Secret Life. Misunderstandings leave the men thinking Sharky is gay.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Hey, you saw him dancing there at the disco. Never mind. Episode 14 is titled The Pizza Party. Sharky seems to relish denying the men a celebration after the completion of boot camp. But when the food and other party favors arrive, Sharky is forced to reluctantly reconsider. Party favors! Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Strippers?
Sure, yeah. Strippers, really. No, Chico. Condoms.
Oh, party favors.
That was going to be edited out, but I think after your reaction, that's going to stay in. I really didn't know how you would handle that.
What can I say? I'm a professional.
A professional.
Bullshit you are! One name playing Vito Scarola in this episode is Vito Scotti. He was in the original Godfather as Nazarene, but also he voiced the Italian cat in The Aristocats, one of my favorite Disney movies growing up. Last episode of season 1, episode 15, is titled A Wino is Loose. Oh gosh, this better be Dick Wilson. Just saying. Yeah, let's get the stereotyped drunk in here. When a homeless drunk enters the barracks and makes himself at home, Sharky is livid. And nothing that the men do dislodges the man from his comfy quarters. We don't have Dick Wilson playing the bum, but we do have a big name playing the bum, Larry Storch. We talked about him in the Ghostbusters, but we also talked about him playing Corporal Agarn on F Troop. So definitely a known person there. So that's 15 episodes. That's season 1. Now, if we take a look at the schedule, the one thing I'm going to tell you is wherever this show went, it faced some very fierce competition. To start, it aired on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. This is not good. On CBS, it went up against Good Times. But on ABC, it went up against The Bionic Woman the first half hour. That is not a good way to debut your show. But that lasted a very short period of time because by winter of 77, it moved to 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. It went up against the first half hour of the CBS Wednesday Night Movie. But again, ABC, I don't think you're going to be beating this. Baretta, the 8th rated show on television in 1976 and 77. And it stayed there throughout the entirety of the 76-77 season. There's a different sort of story when we get to 77-78. But if you take a look at what followed C.P.O. Sharkey, this is not good. The show after C.P.O. Sharkey, at least for the first month or so, 2 months, was the McLean Stevenson show.
Oh.
But then, if you want to put a more of a positive twist, because I like this show, what we saw of it, after McLean Stevenson got canceled, in the 9:30 slot was Sorota's Court. But then in summer, there's no Sorota's Court. There's no McLean Stevenson show. There's a show called The Kallikaks. Jasper T. Kallikak is a coal miner from Appalachia who inherits a rundown 2-pump gas station in the fictional town of Nowhere, California, with David Huddleston, Edie McClurg, and that's just about it, to be honest. Well, at least Edie McClurg went to much bigger and better things. I was only able to find 1 week of ratings for this first season. This is from January 24th through the 30th of 1977. Out of 67 shows, C.P.O. Sharkey came in at 48th, which I really think you would expect after we talked about that competition. Good Times and The Bionic Woman. You're talking about the 26th rated show in the 76-77 season with Good Times and the 14th rated show with The Bionic Woman. So I think you're expecting 3rd place. But obviously NBC saw something they liked. They moved it around to get out of that 8 p.m. time slot. And as I said, when it moved to 9 p.m., it went up against the first half hour of Baretta, which was the 8th rated show in the 76-77 season. So maybe they liked what they saw. They just needed to get it to a different day, different time slot. And that's exactly what they did in season 2. Let's start talking about season 2. And we do have, I think, about 24 episodes, almost a full season, if not a full season. And we'll start with episode 1, which is titled The New Captain. Sharkey is excited to get a new captain until he meets him. Captain Buckner, a by-the-book career man, demands that Sharkey slim down to regulation weight and gives him 10 days to do it. Captain Buckner is the aforementioned Richard X. Slattery. Episode 2 in Season 2 is titled Operation Frisco. Sharkey's plans with Natalie are complicated by tests aboard a submarine. Episode number 3 is titled, this is a big title from about a year before, Sharkey Flies Over the Cuckoo's Nest. A checkup at the hospital leads to misunderstandings and leaves Sharkey viewed as a severe mental patient. We do actually have a name in this episode, believe it or not. Playing Barton is Happy Hairston, not known for being an actor. He played for the LA Lakers, among other teams. He played for the Cincinnati Royals and also the Detroit Pistons. So not an actor, but a basketballer. Episode 4 is titled Don't Make Waves. Sharkey butts heads with a commander of a group of waves that moves into the barracks and conspires to bring her down. So yet another battle of the sexes. We talked about it earlier with the hookers, and we talked about it with the inflatable doll, and I think we talked about females being involved in at least one other capacity. But now the waves are attacking. Hey, the chief of this group, Chief Gypsy Cock, maybe not Cock, maybe it's Koch, Cook. I don't like calling it Cock. I mean, maybe it's like Ed Koch. I don't know. But playing this chief named Gypsy is Beverly Sanders. But playing Seaman Daly. Where's the joke, Greg? Seaman Daly.
Seaman Daily. Yeah, there's certain websites that are probably called that.
Good night, everybody.
That's one.
We've already broke out the name of Beverly Sanders' character. Might as well go all in with it. I apologize for these two jokers. Anyway.
Wait, I didn't say a word. That was all Greg.
Now I'm talking about Seaman, the Sailor's Daily. What the hell do you think I meant, Chico?
Hey, Greg, pro tip from me to you. Clear browser history in cache right now.
Joke's on you. I always use incognito mode.
Does all the hard work for you.
Hey, don't be talking about hard work when we're talking about Seaman Daly. Okay, so as I was trying to say, Seaman Daly is played by Betty Thomas, who you'd best know as Sergeant Lucy Bates on 144 episodes of Hill Street Blues. Seaman Daly, oh my gosh. But also, since we're talking about her, boy, this is really a deep dive. I apologize for this. Just going to say that right off the top here. She was a regular on the Fun Factory. Nothing from the Fun Factory. Okay. Episode 5 is titled Natalie's Ultimatum. Sharkey wrestles with proposing to Natalie or risking losing her after she gives an ultimatum. I wonder what the ultimatum is. We're getting married now. You're retiring from the Navy to live a regular life. It's got to be something like that. Playing a clerk in this episode is Herb Voland. We just talked about him on Alice because he appeared posthumously on Alice. I think it was the last episode, and he passed away in April of 81. So nobody even knows. I just remember the name from when we talked about Flo. Episode 6 is titled Sharkey the Actor. Sharkey is chosen to star in a naval training documentary. We got a name playing Sherman in this episode. He's played by King Moody. We've talked about him in the past. He played Starker in Get Smart, but also, found this out doing a little bit of research yesterday, he played Ronald McDonald in the late 60s and 1970s. So he follows in a long line of Ronald McDonald's. Willard Scott, King Moody. I think that's about it. But still, Ronald McDonald from at least one of our childhoods. And actually, IMDb says 1969 to 1985. So that would actually cover all of our childhoods. We do have one other name playing a tailor in this episode. No name given, just Taylor, is Billy Sands. And he is actually a person that would probably work out really well in this show because he was on 138 episodes of McHale's Navy from 1962 to 1966. And he was also Private Dino Paparelli on the Phil Silvers Show. So he definitely has a lot of experience playing a military man on comedic TV. Albeit he was a tailor in this. He wasn't actually a military man. Episode 7 in Season 2 is titled Barracks Baby. The sudden appearance of a heavily pregnant woman sends the men in panic as a congresswoman targeting the base to shut down is set to arrive for an important inspection. Playing that congresswoman, by the name of Bagley, is the legendary Pat Carroll. And if we went through everything Pat Carroll did, we'd be here quite a bit of time. But actually, this episode just aired, as you hear this, about 2 weeks ago on the Shout TV Fast channel. I think it was supposed to be a Christmas episode. The date of this is actually December 30th of 1977. It wasn't Christmas-centric, but it still aired in this Christmas marathon of TV shows. This really, I thought, was a good episode. I've seen a number of the episodes, but this one, I think they did a really good job at it. This one was very funny. Yes, it's another episode. Oh, we've got to hide the woman because we can't have women on the base. And what happened is this woman, this pregnant woman, I should add, she jumped into their vehicle, Jeep or whatever, when they were in Mexico, and she, happened to go to the naval base, and she was ready to give birth to a baby. And they're hiding her around the barracks because of this inspection that was mentioned earlier. Hilarity definitely ensues, but in the end, the Congresswoman, talking about Pat Carroll's character, sees it as like a humanizing experience. Oh, you were taking care of this pregnant woman, you took care of the baby, you were really looking out. She did not see it as a negative to close down the base. She saw it as a positive. So a pretty good episode, even though it is rated 6.7 stars on IMDb out of 10. I really liked it. Just my opinion.
My opinion's the only one that counts.
Episode 8 in season 2 is 7-Eleven Sharkey. When Sharkey goes to con men to get Kowalski's money back, he is tricked into high-stakes gambling. Okay, please let Vince Van Patten be in this episode, not Dick Van Patten. Oh, darn. He's not.
Well, it would have been a few years removed after he appeared on Canon.
Right! Episode number 9 in season 2 is Forget Pearl Harbor. Sharkey suspects a visiting Japanese C.P.O. is a spy. Hey, we talked about John Fujioka earlier. He returns as Tanaka in this episode, so I'm guessing he's the Japanese C.P.O. Episode 10 in season 2 is Close Encounters of the Worst Kind.
Gee, what could it be referencing?
No clue. Let's find out. Sharkey sets out to find a way to be nice and learn how to say I love you to Natalie. Aww. Beverly Sanders returns as Chief Gypsy Cook, Cock, Koch, whatever her name is. She's the Chief Gypsy in this episode. I just don't like saying her last name because it could be taken way out of line, especially since she's around a bunch of seamen. I hate myself for that. Episode 11 is titled Pruitt's Paradise. When it's found that Pruitt is in a love triangle, he confides to Sharkey that he doesn't know which girl to choose. I'll take neither of them for 1,000, Alex? Nah, I shouldn't say that. Hey, that explains why I'm single. Oh, hey, Betty Thomas is in this episode as Seaman Daly. I just want to say Seaman Daly. Pruitt's Paradise is with Seaman Daly. Never mind. Episode 12, As I Go to Hell, is titled Sharkey Meets Pruitt's Sister. Sharkey struggles to control himself while helping Pruitt's sister enter Miss Topside of San Diego. Woo! Miss Topside! Now we know where the Seaman Daily comes into play. Good night, everybody. Episode 13 is titled Sharky's Back Problem. When Sharkey hurts his back, he's afraid it will cost him a chance at being C.P.O. of the Year, leading to comedic situations. That's just IMDb's way of saying hilarity ensues, leading to comedic situations. That will take us to episode 14, which is entitled It Happened One Night. Sharkey and Koch's, Cooks, Cox, whatever. Sharkey and that person are in hot water when they innocently spend a night together in his quarters. And I bet she saw his Koch or Cook or... Never mind. Man, there's a lot of inadvertent double entendres. I think they're just inadvertent double entendres in my mind. Let's go fast to episode number 15 in season 2, which is titled Tell It to the Marines. Fighting between the Marines and Navy escalates towards a boxing match between Sharkey and a Marine sergeant. In this episode, we have a stewardess. Don't even have a name for her, but she gets just credited as stewardess, and she is played by Leslie Ackerman. I know we've talked about her in the past. She was definitely that person from That Thing in the 70s and 80s. In terms of TV shows, she played Barbara Skagska on 6 episodes of Skag. That's how I remember her. Not from Skag. I have to say this, and I'm sorry in advance. She was on a week of Beat the Clock in 1979. Not the week where I needed closure. She was actually on I think pretty early in the celebrity run. Second week, third week. So we're talking probably like November-ish, early December of 1979. Everything goes back to beat the clock in 1979 and 1980 around here. Let's move on to episode 16, which is titled Sharkey and the South American Way. The men hosting a visiting South American Navy man whose clashes lead to a scheduled duel with Sharkey. Oh, now we're talking about dueling. We're talking about death. The stakes have really been raised here. Don't worry, there's only about like 7 more episodes. Then the series will really die off. Episode 17 is titled Punk Rock Sharkey. Sharkey works to reunite a punk rock girl with her worried mother. Yet another female on the base with good intentions. It's not like any of these females had bad intentions. Playing Mrs. Stanley in this episode, I'm guessing she may be the worried mother. And what a worried mother this is. Charlotte Rae. Girls, girls, girls.
Well, Chico better hope in a couple of years he gets the Charlotte Rays baseball team.
I was actually hoping you'd make a comment about how Peter Griffin was Charlotte Rae's rack in that viewer mail episode of Family Guy.
Yeah, I know. She can be the mascot.
That's the mascot for the Charlotte Rays. Okay.
We've already said this.
Episode 18 is titled Pruitt, the Russian Flu Carrier. No, I'm not saying a word. I'm not saying a word. Not saying a word. Yeah, I am. Man, this would have been timely like 42 years later. Never mind. Well, that was Chinese, not Russian. When the Russian flu sweeps through the barracks, Sharkey is desperate to be free of being stranded with Pruitt. Episode 19 is titled Captain's Right-Hand Man. Sharkey takes over as Captain Buckner's personal aide, but sees the men quickly embrace their new C.P.O. And that new C.P.O., C.P.O. Henderson, is played by Paul Sylvan. He played Woody Warshaw on Busting Loose in 1977. Not Bustin' Loose, not the Jimmy Walker show. But I think around here, people might remember him as a semi-regular on the game show, To Say the Least, back in 1977 and 1978. I don't want to say, To Say the Least, made his career, but ... It kind of made his career. Episode 20 in Season 2 is titled Fear of Flying. When Sharkey is given an assignment that involves flying, Robinson tries to cure him of his fear of flying. Leslie Ackerman returns as a stewardess. We're going to move on really fast to episode 21, which is titled The Even Couple. Wonder what they're trying to make fun of here. The Even Couple. To accommodate their dating lives, Sharkey and Robinson decide to share an apartment in town. Playing Marlene in this episode, I'm guessing she's dating Sharkey, or possibly she's dating Robinson, is Louisa Moritz. I call her Louisa the Ditz because she was on Match Game, and I don't think she was the brightest bulb in the Christmas tree of life. She was only on for 15 episodes, so 3 weeks in 1974 and 1975, but she came across as kind of ditzy. With all due respect to her, I'm sure she's a nice woman, even though she passed away 6 years ago, but she just came across as a certain, well, I don't want to say airhead, but sure, that's how she came across when I saw her on MASH Game. But also, where you would know her from, she occasionally made appearances on Laugh-In. Specifically, it looks like the 1971 season. That's going to take us to the last episode, episode 22 in season 2, which is titled The Used Car Caper. Sharkey goes up against a shady used car salesman to get the recruit's money back after being sold a clunker. And playing Ernest, I'm going to assume this is the car salesman because I think he's the only person in this episode that is not a regular cast member, is Alan Oppenheimer. Skeletor. That's all we need to say is Skeletor.
Oh, I got a question. What do you think the seaman would have thought of the dildo copter?
Send help.
I can't. No, Chico, I cannot. There's no way to respond to that. And actually, I don't know if you just saw this earlier this week, Greg, but one of the Facebook pages that I think all 3 of us follow, I know at least 2 of us do, is Dinosaur Dracula.
Yeah.
He did a post about the He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special, and I was this close to posting a comment about the dildo copper, but I did not want to get banned that day. So yeah, there's the answer to your question, Greg. I'm not touching that at all. I'm just going to say the schedule. It moved to Fridays in the 1977-1978 season. And if we take a look at what it went up against, hopefully it went up against better competition than what we saw previously in its first season. I'm sort of venturing towards no because, well, it's only lasted 2 seasons. C.P.O. Sharkey now aired on Friday nights, but it did a lot of bouncing around, even though it was still on Friday nights. At 8 p.m. on ABC was the first half hour of Donnie and Marie, which I think it's starting to wane at this point. Maybe you beat that. I don't know if you beat that and the CBS competition, which is the first half hour of Wonder Woman. People love their Linda Carter. Well, people love their Osmonds too, just saying. It moved around February of 78 to 8:30 p.m. So now that just means you're going up against the second half hour of Donnie and Marie, and you're going up against the second half hour of Wonder Woman. Shoulder shrug here. Late in its run, C.P.O. Sharkey once again moved, but now it's going back to 8 p.m. I think this is the death knell for this show. It went to 8, then to 8:30, then back to 8, and the competition's still the same. It's the first half hour of Wonder Woman on CBS, and it's the first half hour of Donnie and Marie on ABC. I think Friday night was essentially a lost cause, at least from 8 to 9 on NBC, because you started off with Sanford Arms before C.P.O. Sharkey appeared in late fall of 77. And then at 8:30 was Chico and the Man. But remember, this is Chico and the Man post Freddie Prinze's death, where they have that little kid. And let's remember that Chico and the Man did not escape 1978. So this show is definitely going on a downward trend, Chico and the Man. Once C.P.O. Sharkey returned to 8 p.m. in summer of 78, again, Chico and the Man. So I think NBC at this time was just playing out the string because, yeah, you're not beating Wonder Woman. And you're not beating Donnie and Marie, even if maybe they're sort of on the downward trend, because we talked about what happened to variety shows around 79, 80. They became non-existent. But also, if you look at the rest of the night, 9 to 10, there's something there. This is going to last 2 more seasons. But 9 to 10, you got Rockford Files, for the most part. And then actually, 10 to 11, this show lasted quite a bit of time. You've got Quincy, and I think that started in 77. So that had a good 6-season run. But yeah, that 8 to 9 p.m. block, you're not beating Donnie and Marie, and you're not beating Linda Carter. If you take a look at the ratings, I've got the week of November 14th through the 20th of 1977, and out of 62 shows, C.P.O. Sharkey was 45th, sort of in the middle. Donnie and Marie was 23rd, and Wonder Woman was 35th. So C.P.O. Sharkey was 3rd for that week. However, some shows that it beat, and these are some good names. It beat MASH. MASH was 48th for the week. It beat Fish. It beat the aforementioned Chico and the Man, which was 50th. Maude, admittedly final season of Maude. Carol Burnett, again, admittedly final season of Carol Burnett. The Red Fox Show, Lou Grant, Bob Newhart, and the aforementioned Busting Loose. So it beat some name shows, but most of those shows were on the downward trend in 1977-78. And then I've got the ratings for a little bit later. I think this is a couple weeks later. November 28th to December 4th of 1977. Out of 62 shows, C.P.O. Sharkey finished 59th. And actually, 60th, again, talking about a show on the decline, we talked about this the last 5 minutes, Chico and the Man. Friday nights, especially that 8 to 9 time slot, I think NBC just conceded to Donnie Marie and Wonder Woman. Just no way that you're beating them. Even though Wonder Woman was only 51st, 8 positions better than C.P.O. Sharkey that week, and Donnie and Marie was 37th, but still third place in a 3-horse race. If you're interested in seeing this show, you're very lucky because it has been released on DVD. It was released about 10 years ago. But even better, seemingly wherever you go, you're going to find it. I mentioned that it popped up on the Shout TV Fast channel. I saw it on Crackle before Crackle went down. I'm sure it's on Tubi. I'm pretty sure it's on Pluto TV, Plex. You can easily find it. This is not like a hidden gem. Just do a little search, probably just for C.P.O., I'm sure, and you'll find it. And you can judge for yourself. Like I said, I saw a number of episodes, not just the one that aired around Christmas time, but I saw a number of episodes on Crackle before Crackle went under. I saw it maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I thought it was perfectly fine. I thought it was funny. I thought it was good. I think maybe I thought it was good because going in, I knew that Don Rickles was going to be Don Rickles. He was going to be that caustic, insult-throwing person. I mean, we know what Don Rickles does. I think if you go in knowing that Don Rickles is going to be playing that and not another character, I think it makes it much better. I think this gets a bad rap, and I do encourage everybody, as we say on the show, to watch it and form your own opinion. I think you're going to find it's actually a pretty good show. Any final words, gentlemen?
I don't have any. But you know what? I'll say this. I'm very sad for all the seamen on board.
Well, it's not like the seamen died. They were still, oh, forget it. So what can we say about C.P.O. Sharkey? It was unlucky wherever it went. It was going up against really good shows, really popular shows. And unfortunately, despite being moved like 4 or 5 times, the only thing we can say about C.P.O. Sharkey almost 50 years later is, again, it's not a bad show, but it's just a thing on TV. You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time. This is a show that I think I'm going to be in pain over because I didn't like this show almost 40 years ago, and I've seen bits and pieces of it online, and I still don't like it. What happens when fairy tales come to the big screen? And I don't mean fairy tales as in fairy tale theater with Shelley Duvall. No, that's great. I love fairy tale theater. I'm talking about when fairy tales and comedies intersect. Hilarity does not ensue. But again, we'll leave that to you to judge whether hilarity ensued or not right here on Monday on It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you as always for listening. Happy New Year. Hopefully your 2025 goes really well. And we're going to catch you right here for the second episode of 2025 with that unmitigated disaster.
Wow!
Uh-oh.
What the hell happened to this? You know how long I've had this cigarette box on this desk?
You brought that up from New York City?
I brought this from New York. What on earth?
It happened last night.
Who?
Don Rickles.
I did not see the
Don
show
Rickles
last
did it last night. He's taping across the hall. C.P.O. Sharkey.
Can I get over there? Can I get over there? I don't give a damn if they're on the air. Rickles! Rickles, hold! Stop the taping! Stop the taping! Somebody broke my cigarette box. I just started the show. I picked my box up off my desk that I've had for 9 years. My box is broken. They told me you broke it on the show last night.
Well, I really...
You big dummy!
No, but I'm sorry about the box.
Well,
I will come up with something.
Well, I hope so.
But just keep me on your show. You mean so much to me. Can I?
No,
Please.
No. Don't humble yourself.
Please, I want to be with you so bad.
Don't humble yourself, brother. I want something back. Okay, carry on.
Help me.
Carry on. Good to see you.
Johnny Carter.
They know who I am.